Aloha! Welcome back, kids, and everyone else on Labor Day. Yeah, I said yesterday I'd come back today. It was Sunday yesterday. Today's Monday. It's rather unusual, but it's Labor Day. So, hello, all you laborers. And that would be people working, not working. Some people have to work. So when you get hold of Uncle Martin later after you get done working, check it out. So we got kids. You got it pretty fortunate right now because if you think about it, you're not working unless even your paper route and mowing the grass, all that stuff's kind of been taken away from you. See, when I was growing up and your parents were growing up, they got to go with those jobs, which now have been taken. But now it's time for you to study, and to each generation gets better, and that's as I said in the past, that is the way it works. Now you kids didn't always have it so easy, all right. You actually had to work. You were actually chained to in manufacturing companies at a certain time, and then they changed the law on that. You couldn't chain a kid to do work anymore. Well, I don't know. Some places, I don't know if they're doing it anymore on Planet Terrific. It could be very terrible if that's what's happening to the kids. And if it is happening, I suggest somebody work on changing those rules for anybody in that situation. That's all Uncle Martin's going to say about that at this time. But I believe it was 1980. 1980. Why do I want to say it 1847. It was women and children no longer could work more than 10 hours. Prior to that, you had to work a lot longer. And at least that rule was changed. Then I believe it was, yes, it was New York. Go New York! You implemented a bill that hopefully somebody read. The episode I had with Truth versus the Lie, where even today the Congress and senators are not reading the bill. They go yay or nay, and then somebody comes back, why did you do that? Well, I didn't know. I didn't read the bill. It was my health did it. It's not my fault. Right. That's why Uncle Martin's saying, I believe at this time we should pass a bill that every senator has to read the bill before you say yay or nay. Just put it on the back shelf. So introducing this bill in New York was the start of, well, actually it wasn't codified until 1887 by Oregon. Oregon codified the bill. Now, gosh, it wasn't until 7 years later, 1894, numbers, but it was 7 years. That was very spiritual. 7 years later, our president, Grover Cleveland, it's reversing. He was our president that said, well, it's time that we have a national holiday. It's going to be Labor Day for all our laborers. So all you laborers, aloha! Welcome to Uncle Martin if you've never been here before. That's all I got to say about that. So since it's Labor Day, I figured I've been promising a lot of you guys jobs and how you can have a more harmonious time with your boss. Well, you can would be positive. If you don't, is negative. And that's where the karma comes back. Why not have it positive? Even if the guys, even if whoever they are not on the positive side, they are on the negative side, which is basically kids. That's when you get out of school and you get your job, you're going to find that bosses tend to be more, you have more things to work out with. It seems to be more negative than positive. Because I had added up how many I had 11 jobs in my life so far, counting this one I'm in, which I can't say anything about. But 11 jobs. Wow, 11 master numbers. 11 is master numbers, by the way. Anything 11, 22, 30, all the way up to 99 are master numbers. Numerology, you can't break those down. They have to stay the way they are. And that's all I'll say about that at this time. Numerology, I got to bring that up. Mom was really into that. Numbers are so important on so many different levels. But that would be another thumbnail. We're staying with jobs and how they affect you. Not you kids, unless you're doing something, I don't know. You might be working somewhere, might dealing with someone. But I'm talking to probably your moms and dads are around by now, maybe. And if not, go grab them and say, Uncle Martin's got something on jobs. Or you can say first, hey, Mom, Dad, how do you feel about your job? And you'll get a response. Trust me, kids, you will get a response. So, well, let's just say if it's a negative response, tell them, come on over. And hear what Uncle Martin has to say. Or maybe not. Yeah, I would say. Absolutely. I think it'd be positive to do that. Okay, so I got 11 jobs. I believe I had more, but I'm just going to... And for the negative ones, I have had so many negative ones, but I will only pick 2 that will really stand out to where I think it could really help someone get by what they're dealing with. As I said yesterday, I ran into 3 people in a row that wanted to deal with their boss on a negative level. So that's why I want to do this in a fashion that maybe these 3 people would be watching today. I don't know. So we got, okay, episode 35. I didn't want to go back there, but the past lives one, where I was told I was a giant before I came in from where I came in from. I was a giant here, and I beat up all the giants. I was the biggest giant, the strongest giant, and I used that power that I had to lord it over people. So I was doing negative things, and that's where the Lilliputians, all those little Lilliputians, got to drag me, pull me down, and I was never the same again. And apparently, I was positive enough they didn't kill me, where that would have been really negative. But maybe it didn't happen that way. I learned back then that it was negative to do that. So now that I'm at this point, centuries later, I can see where it makes a lot of sense. That to use your strength, your size, your power, to lord it over anyone is very negative, all right? No matter who you are. And when it comes to bosses can be either positive or they can be negative. And it's always up to them. In fact, a positive boss would be one that would see the situation, whatever workplace you're in, and if you're short-handed or something, he would get down into the front lines and start working alongside with you. That would be a positive boss, rather than one that would sit back and chuckle, have whatever he's doing and not helping. That would be rather negative. But since he's on salary, he can do whatever he wants, and plus he's a boss, so he doesn't have to do either one of those things. But I'm just saying, Uncle Martin would say it'd be a little positive for him to jump in and give the rest of the crew a hand. Not only that, he'd get more respect. All right, that's how it works, by the way. The other thing I was going to point out was we all karmically have something to work out with anybody we come in contact with. So that's why the workplace is so important. That first of all, anybody that's hired anywhere in the United States normally has to sign some paperwork. And that paperwork is usually, there's rules. There's rules with those paper. It's usually a little piece of paper, little bitty BP, or it's a big stack of papers that you got to read all the rules. And as life is, rules are rules, and man delights in making rules. Man delights more in breaking them. Of course they do. That'll never change, kids, no matter where you are or where you go. It happens that way. So a boss that is really giving you a negative time, you might want to say, hey, are these in the rules? Yeah. Just something. Maybe it's time that you pull that big book that they gave you and read the rules. Is that boss really following the rules? would be something to think about. Anybody out there that's dealing with the situation. Who do we have here? Oh my goodness, we have May May. And do you know why May May is here? Well, of course, it's feeding time. I didn't forget. It's just that May May, the cross-eyed kitty, does not want to be filmed all the time, do you? Oh, do you? Okay. I'll feed you, baby. I will. As soon as we're done here. She's a little stinker sometimes. And I will bring in Coogie, that big gray, I promise. By the way, he's the one that I taught not to spray. I know it's impossible to do these things, but I might have an episode on that one too. I know you're supposed to get the cats fixed because there's such an important thing on that, kids, that they multiply. I had 44 in my backyard. Do they ever? And then I had a catch and release. They'll come and get them. I highly recommend anybody out there that has a bunch of cats, get them early. And what they do is they catch them, they fix them, and then they give them back to you. That's the way it works. It's catch and release. They release them back to you. They don't release them out anywhere else except back in your house. So now, I don't have 44. I think I'm down about 22. And, well, cat food it is very expensive, but these cats I got all the names for them. And once you name a cat, that's the way it is. Any animal, that's the way it is. I promise I will go back to the thumbnail, the bosses. You deal with the boss on either positive or negative, how they throw things out at you. Now, if you have now, see, in my situation right now, Uncle Martin has a positive boss. He's one of the most positive bosses that I've ever had. He comes to work happy, smiley, telling happy jokes, and more than happy to help you along if you need help. And it's very rare to have one of those guys. But it's karmically, again, I guess it's time to where I've got more happy bosses than all the negative ones that I've had. So I worked, by the way, I worked with every one of them to where it came out positive. But there was 2 instances where it was so negative you would say, boy, when you want to, well, no, you can't break Dad's first rule. Now, I couldn't even arm wrestle them. They were my boss. It would be worse even then if I won. You know, you can't do those things. You have to work on different levels, kids, when you get up to being in the service field of bosses. Okay, you just can't go with rule 1, 2, 3, and 4. Unless the boss comes in with a bunch of people, and then you can go to 4. You know, if they're gonna. But that never happens that I remember. So you got the rules down at least. And I highly recommend you to read. A lot of people just don't read the rules, so the boss gets away with a lot more things that he could, because you can just bring it up to his attention, and then if he keeps it up, then you go over his head, and then maybe he's no longer your boss. It could happen that way. So I was back with Bobby on one of those episodes at Beacons, and I told you just a little bitty bit of it. So we'll start with old Bobby when he got his head popped 3 times by Gene, which I'll go over very quickly with you because it's very pertinent this time. I'll do that as soon as I finish the other 2, because I got 3. Wow, 3 in this one right here. How oh boy. Okay. So Dow, remember Dow, episode 20, the Rattler, and Malibu with the shark, and I think I mentioned him a few other times. But Dow, my best buddy, he's in another state. Doesn't matter how far you are away. He must have been parking the truck when all that was going on, by the way. But prior to that, I came on as a helper at Beacons. I didn't start driving right away. I was about a year into it before I could be a qualified driver for a 40-footer for Beacons. And during that time period, Bobby knew that I was friends with Dow, and he had some karmic things to work out with Dow. So he took me away from Dow, because he says, "Oh, you know how to do things. You know what a 2-wheel dolly is. You know what a 4-wheel dolly is. You know how to move things. Oh, well, and you're getting pretty positive with it. So we're going to do this for you Uncle Martin, Bobby said. We're going to put you with the Wild Hawaiian. I said, the Wild Hawaiian? And I said, then I went to Dow. I said, who's the Wild Hawaiian, Dow? He says, oh, he's the Wild Hawaiian, man. Be careful of him. Really? Why should I be careful of him? He says, because he's knocked his helpers out. He's knocked them out. He knocked them out? Why did he knock them out? And Dow says, well, that's why they call him the Wild Hawaiian. Now, I thought maybe it was just a coincidence that I would be put with the Wild Hawaiian. But I figured, since I am who I am and what I believe, I could maybe grab that Wild Hawaiian and bring him over to my side, That's what I was thinking. So we went out on a job or two, and, well, he was wild. He was crazy. In fact, that's where, that was the job I was on. With the Wild Hawaiian, I was throwing these big logs, and this 150-pound German Shepherd was bringing them back in his mouth like my Fritz used to do. But when I was grabbing the wood, there was something that ran up my arm and then ran away real fast. I didn't think about it until I got in the truck, and then my arm opened up like the size of a snake bite would have got you. And then the Wild Hawaiian says, "Oh yeah, you got bit by a brown recluse." I said, "Oh, brown recluse, what's that?" He says, "Oh, they can kill you." I said, "Oh, really? They can kill you?" Well, I bet. And then he said, "You can do two things." Because this is the middle of July now. We're still early in the morning. It's like 8:30, 8:15. We started early. And he says, you can do two things. You can go to the hospital and get shots. They'll give you a bunch of shots. Or you can work it off. I said, I could work it off? He says, yeah, you could work it off. Because we're going to be perspiring all day. It's middle of July. And you work it off. It's okay. I said, well, you know what? I don't know how I got into the brown recluse again. But believe me, when I have an episode, because I'm staying with this thumbnail, when I have an episode on spiders, remember? Episode 20, I had spiders, snakes, and sharks, I believe is the thing. And all I did was snakes and sharks. I left the spiders out, as I said. So this will be the thumbnail for that one, is the spiders. And what do you do when you get bit by a brown recluse? Well, physician, heal thyself. That was the last episode on healing. But I'm staying with this thumbnail of the Wild Hawaiian. This is after a while to where he wasn't so wild anymore. And how did this happen? How did this happen? Because you know why? I saw that he had some issues, all right? And those issues might have been a little negative for some people. But I was able to talk with this guy. And, I told him some stuff about the kahunas, and that got his eyes open, which will be another episode, I promise you. The guys in charge, the Firewalker guys in charge, they were doing all these things. Fire, air, water, and earth. And I brought some of that stuff up, so I was kind of bringing them closer to my side. And, I had to ask him, why... there was a rumor that you knocked somebody out once. He says, oh yeah, I did. I said, well, why would you do that? He says, because we had a baby grand spinet piano. We were going up 2 flights of stairs, and me and the other guy that were pulling up on the two-wheel dolly, the new guy that didn't know what he was doing, he was pushing the wrong direction. It was like 800 pounds rather than 400 pounds going up there. So when we got to the top, when he came over, I knocked him out. Oh, well, sounds a little negative, but maybe you had things to work out, And so I saw there was a reasoning behind him, not just going crazy and knocking him out, like the other guy that I got to bring up, which we might as well start with. The next guy, he was my first guy, Rod. Rod was crazy, not crazy. He had a short temper, and that's what I was going to say, kids. One of the things you have to learn or don't in this life is that temper, when it's out of control, when you lose your temper, when you watch anyone lose their temper, they tap into something that is very negative, and it keeps going and going and going to where the outcome is never positive. So that's why you kids, you want to hold on to your anger, that anger that some people say, hey, that's really cool. That's really cool that you got that anger, because that's cool. There's going to be people that say that, and that's what they did when I was in corporate on my next job that I'll go to. Okay, so put that on the back shelf where people say it's cool. All right, well, it isn't cool. I I I, uh, I would say definitely no. It's actually a sign of weakness. When you lose your temper and you blow up, that is a sign of lack of mastery. We are supposed to be masters of our temple, masters and in control at all times. When you're when you get angry, you're out of control. You are feeding the negative side. The negative side loves you to be angry. They love it. In fact, they demand it. They want to have you as angry as possible at all times. All right? That's how the negative side works. That's just the way it is. Why is that? It just is. Just keep it at that. So we got rid of the wild Hawaiian because now he's over to my side. Now the next guy was Rod. He just had a short temper, and I can see he had issues also. So I worked with him on, I guess, a psychological level. I wanted to get more into his mind on why he was getting so upset, what was the problem, all that. So we kind of worked that out, and then I don't know, something happened to where by doing this, by not getting personal, but just showing him that I wasn't getting excited about it, and I wasn't afraid of him. I wasn't afraid of either one of them, the wild Hawaiian or Rod, who both of them were knocking their help out. They were just knocking them out. It was more than one or two. They had a list of. Actually, what it came down to is nobody would work with them. Imagine that. And maybe Bobby had a plan too. Let's see how positive this guy is. He looks awful smiley. He looks awful happy all the time. I think it's time that we just see how happy he can be. And maybe that would have been another way of looking at it. So here I am with Rod working things out, and then I had to ask Rod. I said, "Well, I heard one time that you knocked a guy out," and he says, "Oh, yes, I did. Yes, I did." I said, "Well, what reasoning would that be?" He says, "Well, I had the refrigerator, and it was just us two, and we had it at that 45-degree angle, which is the proper level for your, it doesn't weigh as much," and he says instead of pushing down where he was pushing down on the top, and it almost fell on top of me. And so when we put it away into the house and we got outside, I knocked him out. I said, oh, I guess we got to do what we got to do. I guess that kid learned not to do that way, but I would have worked a little differently, you know. Yeah, definitely would have. But we all do different things. We do negative things and positive things. We always have a choice. And we got to become friends. Both of these gentlemen that were the wild, crazy people that nobody wanted to work with, Uncle Martin got to be their friend. Okay? So those were those two in this Beacons. The next one was Bobby. I told you, okay. Gene was 13 years as a driver. His wife was having really they didn't know if she was going to make it. The whole O&I, that summer move of an office move is an O&I. Everybody knows nothing that. So in fact, Dow and I, we carried up a 12-foot oak desk. That was the longest, heaviest oak desk that and it had to be two people, because the stairs that went up in an L, you couldn't get a bunch of guys there, so they picked Dow and me. Go figure. And we did it fine, because Dow and I were pretty much the strongest guys there at Beacons at the time. Even Randy, who was like, he could lift a lot of stuff. In fact, we went to he was the kind of guy that when we went to the buffet, they kicked us out. That kind of guy. The guy that cuts the meat, you know, has a big fork and he's cutting the meat. Randy went over and there was like that much meat, you know, and Randy took what portion he was going to get, and he took the whole, because it was all you can eat. He took the whole fork with the whole hunk of meat, put it on his plate, and went over and sat down. Well, the management came in because the guy went and got the manager and says, "You can't do that. We got to slice it all in." And Randy says, "No, I'm going to eat this," and he did. He ate the whole thing. So that's the kind of guy Randy was. Which, by the way, I beat him in arm wrestling. As crazy as that sounds. And the only person that beat me, now that I'm thinking about it, was Dow. Dow beat me in arm wrestling, so there you go. Uncle Martin did not win all his arm wrestling. In school he did, but not when he got out. That guy, he worked in a mine of, up in Superior. It was a copper mine. Down very deep in the copper mines, and all he could do was move things from here to there, like for years. So this guy was massive. And that's what you need for your arm wrestling, by the way, is this part of your body. Well, the rest of it too. I'm just throwing in there arm wrestling for anybody who wants to be a good positive arm wrestler. You might want to be hired at copper mine. I don't know. So Gene doesn't know how his wife's doing. All day I hear, I got to call my wife. There's no phone around. We finally get into the yard. We get out to where the phone is. It's broken. And now we come into the office. There's 24 of us. Again, Dow was out backing in the truck. We had 5 trucks, so all 5 drivers, they were the only 5 that weren't in the room. Everybody else is there. So what do we have? 29 people, right? 9, 10, 11, master numbers again. Oh my God. So here we go with Bobby saying, no, you can't use the phone, Gene. You know the rules. The rules say you can't use the phone. And Gene says, no, really, I got to find out if my wife is okay, because she had an operation, and he didn't know if she woke up or how to go, and so he didn't go into all that with. I think he did tell Bobby that, I got to find out if my wife is doing okay. And then Bobby said, then Gene said again, I got to use that phone over there. There was like 10 phones over there. It was on the other side, dispatcher. Bobby was the only guy. And he said, I need that phone over there to use that phone. And then Bobby said, what are you, a dumb? And then the older folks know what dumb after that they would say, the next sentence, and I can't say it because it's too negative. And then Gene says, no, I really have to get to that phone. And then Bobby said one more time, he said, what did I tell you? What are you, a dumb? And that's when the camel's back got broken. Gene opens up the little gate, walks over to Bobby, pop, 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 3 times. Bobby's big head went back 3 times. I counted 1, 2, 3. And then Gene went over, made the phone call. Found out his wife was okay and everything's better. But what happened the next day was the union representative comes in, and because there was an incident, and now the same guys, I guess Dow was in there too, and the whole group of it, because we all get our sheet of paper, and then we go all over 50-mile radius anywhere in Phoenix or outside anywhere. 50-mile radius, that was the deal. So we're all in there for a piece of paper, and the union rep's there and says, did anybody see what Gene did to Bobby? And everybody, I'm looking around, I'm thinking, yeah, well, we're going to raise our hand because we're all here, except Dow and the other 4 guys. We're going to raise our hand. And nobody's raising their hand. I'm looking around. Nobody's raising their hand. Well, I said, yeah, I did. You did. I said, yeah, I saw it happen. He said, well, what happened? Bob was looking right at me. I said, well, Gene asked to, use a phone because, his wife didn't know if she's going to make it. So when Bobby said what he said to him the second time, that's when the situation happened. Bobby got 3 times in the head. And then the union rep says, yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. That's what Gene said. So we had 2 corroborating stories. Just 2, Gene and me. Everybody else had amnesia. They had amnesia, sort of like Uncle Martin, episode 25. 2 weeks before I was going to graduate. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Amnesia 2 weeks before you're going to graduate? How's that going to work out? Well, I guess you have to go to episode 25 to find that out. I don't care. I'd be concerned if you want to know about amnesia, though. So, and these guys around me, they didn't have amnesia, see? Uncle Martin did have amnesia. And so I don't know if that's positive or negative, but when you don't have amnesia, that's negative when you're not telling the truth. But see what fear, fear, fear. These guys were in fear of the job. I was not even thinking about that. I was thinking about telling the truth. Just the truth. That's all I wanted to do. So the guy says to me, union rep says, well, we got lawyers. The company Beacon's got lawyers to come in. They're coming in from California. Would you mind telling your story in court? And Bobby's looking at me like, I said, yeah, I don't have a problem with that. I saw what I saw. I'm going to tell the truth. So we go to the court. Blah, 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 blah. It's always back and forth with these lawyers, as you well know, anybody who's been in the court system. And it's not really getting across. The story just isn't there. I mean, somebody could say this, Bobby said he said that, beep boo. And then, because I was already at the stand and I said what happened. And then I sat down, and then Gene's lawyer, I guess it wasn't getting across right, okay? So he said, hey, Uncle Martin, would you mind standing up and show physical, no, that's right. It wasn't, it was the judge. The judge says, he didn't call me Uncle Martin, but he said, would you mind standing up and showing us how this actually occurred? Can you do that for us? I said, absolutely. So I got up, I got out, because it had that sort of a little gate thing like before. So I stood on the other side. I said, well, Gene asked this, that. And then at the second time, because they didn't know really how it happened. They just didn't know. The words just weren't there. They had to see it. They had to see how it went. So I said, this is how it happened. I said, and after that second time of, you dumb, Gene just opened up the gate, and I went over, and I went over to Bobby. I didn't do it, but then I said, this is what he did. 1, 2, 3. And that's what happened to Bobby. And then I think the judge smiled or something, and our lawyer smiled. They didn't smile. So what happened was the verdict was for Gene and not for the company, because Gene had a certain right to do that because, first of all, he didn't know if his wife was alive or dead, and then also there was no reasoning. Sure, the rules that we signed was we will never use these phones. But as you know in my past episodes with the law versus the spirit of the law, that one, this is where that would come in. There is a law, you can't use that phone. There's the spirit of the law that says, yeah, I think you can use that phone. See? Maybe not. Okay. So we're done with that one. Now we can go. So my brother, Brill, gets hired on right after that whole incident happens. He gets hired on, and he's going out for 2 weeks. I didn't ever got called. My brother, we're living in the house, same house with Dad, and taking care. And Brill's he's not going out with the Wild Hawaiian. He's not going out with Rod. He's going out with all these other people that get the best creamy jobs, that get the most pay. He's going out with them. Was Bobby trying to tell me something? So I came to the point where I had to make money. I said, you know what? I'm a driver. I can go to somewhere else. So I went over to North American, and they hired me. And I was driving for them. And then after about a year of that and everything, I said, I really don't like the way it came out with me and Bobby. I felt, in my heart, I could do something to where I was kind of fired, and. As a matter of fact, all the jobs that I had ever been fired at, I always came back and I was rehired because of the situation that happened. But I can't go there. I know they're negative, but these other two are even better. So I have to stay with the best. So when I came back, I walked into Bobby's, I walked in. There's Bobby, same place. I said, hey, Bobby. Hey. I said, you know who I am. Oh yeah, he knows who I am. I said, you know what I stand for. I want a job. I want to drive for Beacons again. I'm North American. I'm not that happy over there. And I think we had things to work out here. I want to drive again here. He looks at me. He looks at me. I think he was thinking over what happened back in the past. And from his heart, he knew it was negative. And he said to me, can you start tomorrow at 8? I'll be here at 8. And he gave me one of the best jobs that I had prior to that. Maybe it's just coincidence. I don't think so. I think we worked out the karmic debt that we had each other. It could have worked either way. He could have said, "Get the heck out of here." He could have done that, but that would have been negative. He went positive. He knew where I stood. He knew I told the truth, and he knew that I was not afraid. Okay? And that's what I'm trying to get across to anyone that's listening. Bosses that are on the negative side, they demand fear from you. They want fear, and you can never give them fear. So that's why I go to the next little happy story of the mortgage company. Father and son is all I can say. They had 136 companies all over the United States. I was working at a corporate where all the brains are. Everyone that's in corporate knows that's the way it works. So I started out, a friend got me the job I was asking for like a couple of years, saying, I want to get in a mortgage company. Oh, no, I don't think you want to go to this one. It's really negative. I said, no, I really want. So finally, after a year of bugging this buddy of mine, he gets me in, and he starts me at the lowest place. It's the files. If you're a file in mortgage company, you know what I'm talking about, all you people in files. But it's very important. Without a true file coordinator, mortgage companies are nothing, all right? And you mortgage companies know what I'm talking about. I know you do. So that's what I started as, and as a matter of fact, I got really positive with it to where I was able to find files, and which is very important that you have a deed and a note before you start flipping homes. Of course, all mortgage people know about that, don't they? Or do they? So we got. I'm now getting proficient enough to where I'm getting up the scale. I had enough. I had enough understanding. In fact, they put me into servicing, which I got really proficient at. So I had quite a few people under me that we were in all servicing. We were a servicing department, and actually repossession of homes also. And well, you know, mortgage companies do come take your home after the third payment. So anybody out there, whatever it takes, make sure you only go as far as 2. Never 3. That's when they start doing the paperwork on you. And then it takes, you know, forbearance and all that to change that. And you can get up to a year with that. I mean, so just think about forbearance, because they can't just come and take it from you. There's a process that they have to do. Okay. During this whole time period, I'm going to call him the Gestapo. It was the son. He'd walk around in these big black boots, stomp, 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 every Friday. You're fired! And everybody would and cringe. And I thought that was a kind of a funny little game, that he would do that to promote fear. And that's what I was saying before, that I had a quota to do with my people, and I never did any of that firing. I never did any of that. I just said to them, you know, hey guys, you know, Friday's coming up soon, and you might consider we'll work as hard as we can, and I know that you can do it. And that's all I said. And we surpassed our quota every time. Nobody in my congregation ever got fired. It was always the other people, whatever reason it was. And that's what the other thing is. Sometimes you're just going to get fired. They just do that to you. And I think, know what it was? Now that I'm thinking about it, they did this crazy little game they played. That in the wintertime, they'd have the air conditioning as high as possible. Now, why was that? Well, any of the guys, the women could have a sweater. The guys, if they came in, well, with a jacket or a long sleeve shirt, they were the ones that were getting fired on Friday. Imagine that. So that's how that worked. But why would they want that fear? Why would they inflict fear on people? Why would anyone do that in corporate? Well, see, that's how it works in corporate. The fear and anger. If you're a guy and you have anger and you're rah, 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 you get a raise. And if you're a woman, you rah, 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 rah. They call you a B, the B word. Yeah, I can't say it. Why is that? Why are women that and the guys get a raise? You know, I don't know. I always thought about that. I'm sure not now because I know a lot of women in corporate that um, they're really high up there, and I don't know if they're losing their temper or anything, but I know a few personally, but and they're sweethearts, by the way. They are sweethearts. Maybe it's just the workplace that they're in, and they're different people. I don't know. That's up to them and their karma, whatever they want to work. So the point is Uncle Martin never had fear toward this guy that was running around giving everybody a firing situation. So it was about the third year. They were about ready to sell all their servicing department, but they knew that I knew where the files were, not only in that whole building, but out in the storage area. They had 12 rooms. Think about 12 by 12 rooms that from the bottom to the top were boxes. By the way, the rule is you have to save all that stuff for like 7 years. It's a little tidbit of information. Anybody always ask for your deed or note if they're going to serve you any papers. Okay, just put that on the back shelf. So we got me knowing where all these different companies were. What they really needed me, you know. But plus, I didn't have any fear. I was actually doing teas and stuff for people that were sick, and they were getting better, maybe working longer. I don't know. And plus, I came in at 6 o'clock. I left at 2 o'clock, and I was never at the 2 o'clock meeting because I had another job. I did. I had 2 jobs at that time, and they said, "Well, we got a meeting." I said, "Good luck, man. I mean, good fortune to you." And they said, "No, you got to be there." No, I got to get to my other job. Sorry, buddy boy. And they said, "You got to be at this meeting." I said, "You know what? If it's that important of a meeting, I had a tape recorder." I said, "Record the meeting, and I'll listen to it, you know, later, and I'll give you my advice at that point." They couldn't touch me. I was bad. I didn't have to go to a stinking meeting. Those meetings were all blah 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 anyway. Anybody, you guys know what I'm talking about that are out there. So it's a power trip thing. So my point would be this: it comes down to I had the biggest room, but it was in the middle. Everybody wanted to fight for the windows. I could care less. I had the biggest room, and I had an oak door that I could close. Nobody bothered me. I was able to do my work. Then that one day I had it open just a little bit, and it was right across from his father, who was the owner of the whole company. So I don't know. On hindsight, I think he was pretty much maybe talking to me indirectly. See, that's what I'm saying. This is what happened. It's Friday, and we're all expecting something. It's early in the morning, and it usually happens about before lunch, a little after. I guess it was after lunch, maybe 2-ish, about 2-ish. That stomping. Where's it coming from? Who's it gonna be? That kind of thing. And then, actually, it happened earlier this time. It was like 8 or 9 in the morning, and I was already there at 6, so I had 2 hours of, you know. I had plenty of coffee and everything, but I heard you could hear even through that little area. It was way on the other side. It was, "You're fired!" And then he comes stomp back to his dad, and he says, "Dad," and I got to hear the whole thing. The door was open a little bit, so he says, Dad, I did what you wanted me to do. I fired him." And he's waiting for recognition from Dad, and Dad says, "Son, sit down. Sit down." He says, I see, I can think. He's sitting down. He says, son, you don't understand what I want you to do. I don't care who it is, where they are. When they walk through those doors, I want them to feel like they can be fired that day." And his son, I could feel him crumbling like a little spider on a hot griddle. He says, "Okay, Dad, I'll do that. I'll keep it. Because he's trying to, impress his dad that he's firing people like his dad apparently told him, but Dad's not happy because the people, apparently there was somebody somewhere that wasn't afraid. I didn't think about this until years later. I think he knew the door was open because it was right next door, and I think he was putting that for my behalf. So after all of that happened, that Kid said, yes, Dad, I'll do that, But I don't think in his mind he was thinking about me because we were kind of friends at that time. Because not only that, I had no fear about the guy, and I had peppermint tea for him and stuff, other things that he was getting better. So we were kind of, we were just friends, I guess, and I had no fear, and that's what I was saying. Kids, you can't give out fear. If you can, and things will come out more negative when you give out the fear on any level is all I'm saying. So now his dad, right after that, it must have been like 10, 11 minutes later, I hear this, bam, and I hear him go, ah! And then it was his kneecap. He smacked his kneecap on the desk, some part of the desk. And now I hear his son running in. Oh, Dad, oh, Dad. And then his dad says, yeah, I'm going to have to go for that operation earlier than later. And I'm thinking, oh, what kind of operation is that? And, see, there's Uncle Martin again thinking, oh, maybe I can help the guy. And this is a guy that, has his issues, but I'm still still to this day in that frame of mind. Whoever you are, it seems like I want to help you rather than hurt you. So now I walked by and I see him now rubbing his kneecap. I didn't know what it was until I saw, and I said, he said, oh, Mr. I see you hurt your knee. And, yeah, I gotta go. Yeah, I've been putting it off too long. Now it's gonna blow up like a sizable balloon, like it always has, I said, really? Just tapping your knee like that? He says, yeah, it happens a lot. And the doctor said I gotta do that. I gotta go through all that stuff. Orthoscopic stuff going through there, yeah. I said, well, have you ever tried castor oil packs? That was the last episode that I'm bringing up to this episode, to where he said, no, I never heard about it. So that's why I would say anybody's coming in on this late one or just this one, go to the last one I did on 39. It's on healing, and maybe it could help you too. So this is the story with him. The next day I bought him a big bottle of castor oil, and I told him to look up castor oil packs, and, how to do it. Actually, I did tell him how to do it. So anyway, he did it. He actually did it. Surprisingly, some people wouldn't. They would just... Anyway, didn't have to go and... He didn't have to go for the operation that he was going to go for. And I'm thinking, maybe it's just a coincidence. It could be. I don't know. It could have been just a coincidence. Maybe. Maybe not. I was the last one to get fired, and that was only because they sold the company out. And when the girl came to me, the humane office girl that comes around and has to give you the paperwork, you're the last to go on. She was always in black on Friday when she was giving out the paperwork. They usher you out in a guard and all that. You get your little box and you get ushered out by a guard. Well, she came in. She didn't even have the guard with her at the time, but she wasn't wearing black. She was wearing purple and white. A little more positive colors, and she had tears in her eyes, saying, "There's a paper, and I'm sorry, I'm sorry, you gotta go. But, I'm not supposed to tell you this. Hold out for 30 days, and I know we're coming back together on another, and I will get you back here. I personally, 30 days." I said, "Oh, okay, no problem. I got another job." I can care less. And I was making really good money, especially time and a half on double time on Sundays and time and a half on Saturdays, because they couldn't find a deed or a note. I was out there and I was fine, no problem. So they did need me, but So I was the last to go before they folded, and then so a month later, "Hey, Uncle Martin, would you mind coming back?" And I said, I got a better job with more money. But you know what? I'll tell you what. If you guys just give me $1 raise, it's still less than I'm making now. It would be less than I'm making now, but you know what? I'm willing to come back and help you guys out. And then I guess she said, $1 raise, and then I heard this. It was sounded like a boot. Bam, bam, bam on top of the. You could kind of on top of the desk, because unless he was up jumping on the desk, but I think it was probably the boot taking off it. And then I said, "I guess that means no, huh?" She says, yeah, we're going to miss you. I said, yeah, don't worry about it. I hope everything works out for you. And that's how that worked out with her. So I had different situations to where you have to have, or you don't have to have, no fear. By me having no fear in that situation, I lasted to be the last one, okay? Which I was actually called back again, which I couldn't do for that much money. I was already making more. So kids, when it comes down, and parents who might be out there, when it comes to your job, these tyrants that seem to be tyrants, maybe they're not tyrants. Maybe all it is they're in pain, all right? That could be too. People get really, really grumpy when they're in pain, by the way. So you can't put judging anybody. They could just be a negative person too. But there's always ways of working around it. If you put your mind to see that you have something karmically to work out with that person, let alone maybe we can turn it around to where it could be positive rather than wanting to get your boss that way. That'd be negative. The other way would be positive, to work it out to where you've worked it out to the next job you go to, or maybe this job you'll work it out even better. Is all Uncle Martin's saying on that. That's all I can say that right now, because that's all the time I have with you guys. Happy Labor Day. And I guess the next thumbnail will be, it'll be on the Kahunas. These guys that had mastery were fire, air, water, and earth. Not only them, but there's so many other people that have been known to do these things. And I'll just tell itty-bitty stories that I can during that time frame of what the Kahunas did. As far as how they did it, that would have to be another episode. But this episode that I will be bringing in is at least what they did, and it's all documented. So until we see each other again, which would be next Sunday, all you kids, all my subscribers, you lose, I think you're staying in a little longer. And all you job workers that have hung out with Uncle Martin, gotta say, you guys are looking fantastic. You're looking really well. And aloha until we see each other again.